All right, hey, welcome back. And we're gonna get to work today on combining major and minor pentatonics over a blues in the sort of easiest way I could think about it, yet also very fun, right? So we'll be playing a blues in C. So we'll have like our C7 there or a C9, because it's gonna be a nice shuffle. And what if we want the sweeter, more major sound? Maybe now we want more of that darker minor sound. It's all within one fret, and here's how it works. You have like your C major pentatonic, which is also a minor pentatonic. I've taught that before, but just think of that sound. And then the C minor pattern 5 does a nice job of overlapping by one fret. Major, minor. All right, that's where all that stuff comes from. It's one way to get all those sounds. And then what we'll do in the solo that I play is I'll take you up to another higher set of strings, different scale patterns. Much sweeter. When I want that minor sound, I already know where to go. C minor pentatonic. You've heard that kind of stuff before. Try to train your ear to see when it's major and when it's more minor. Now, some of you purists and your music theory folks out there are going to say, well, you're adding the 13, you're adding the 9 to the minor pentatonic scale. That's true. That's all very true. But when we're at a stage where we haven't even gotten it to work yet, let's not cloud our brain up with a bunch of different numbers just yet. Let's try to get the sound. Let's try to have fun. So in speaking of the sound, I borrowed this Paul's SE-PRS here. This is the Paul's guitar, the SE version, because I wanted to say, you know, blues licks really take on a new life depending on the pickup, whether it's a humbucker or a single coil or a P90, but this guitar doesn't have a P90. But it really does a good job of splitting the coils, and because it does so with their TCI, these TCI pickups, so it really isolates that coil. So I'm going to play this solo in the neck position, single coil, and it sounds a little different there. But listen to the track, you'll hear what I mean. Then when I go to the other part of the solo, I'll go to the bridge, humbucker. So essentially, it's like having sort of this super guitar that has you know, a bunch of different sounds on board. And then if you stick around, we'll go through some of those sounds a little bit more. And maybe I'll make another video that kind of highlights what you could do with humbuckers and single coils and when to use them. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna play this guitar, we're gonna play a blues, and I'm gonna teach you some ways to navigate the major and minor pentatonic scales over a blues at the same time. All right, let's hear the track. All right, so you see, I made it through a couple choruses of the blues right there and didn't play anything particularly tricky. A lot of bending, but a lot of choice notes on, you know, which pattern I was going to use or which sound I was going for. I like to think sound more than pattern or shape or any of that kind of stuff. The major sounds sweeter, the blues sounds bluesier. All right, so when we get started with that, the idea is to really make sure you understand sort of the overlap that's happening with scales. Now, I can also tell you this is just one approach, and this is the way I found it early on in my playing, and I felt that it helps kickstart players kind of into this tone or into this sound of combining these scales. So make sure you understand the concept. We all probably know what a minor pentatonic kind of shape is. Let's get my little boost on there. So that's a C minor pentatonic, 8th fret, 6th fret, right? It's the first pattern we probably ever learned. If we want to play a major pentatonic of the same key, take your hand, make sure the pinky's on the C instead of the first finger now. Now what you're going to have is an A minor pentatonic scale, which is also C major pentatonic. Still a 5-note scale, sounds great from root to root. But in there is a real sweet spot for strings 4 and 3. Okay, so think about that before, you know, as we move on. Now, we're going to combine a minor pentatonic. We're going to combine one that's really close to it, which would be minor pentatonic shape or pattern 5, one might call it. And that's going to be here. Alrighty? What happens is, you're really only a fret away but just doing that in the right spot really gets you some great sort of weaving in and out of those scales type of sound. Okay, now that happens in a lot of other places on the guitar. Anywhere you find those two patterns intersecting, that will happen. Again, this is just one way to do it, and if you latch onto it, great. So think about your C minor pentatonic. We still have that here. But what's happening here, if we take that pattern and move it, so that was our A minor / C major, the next pattern lives here. Probably know that already. So let's look at the top 2 strings. Pattern 1 is here. Minor, major. And you can hear already there's loads of opportunity. So that's what we're really basing our solo efforts on in the earlier part of the video. So that's the way to do it. Make sure that you overlap those two, and I tabbed those two out for you. I put the C major in a few bars, and then the next few bars will have the C minor. So if you practice them as such, you'll start to hear that. And a lot of people say, well, I don't know hear it, I don't know how to put it together. Take a simple lick. I showed there's some licks tabbed out for you. What's beautiful is the way that works is we're going from G, A, C in our major sound, and when we do a little bend from D to E flat, we're bending into that E flat note that lives in C minor pentatonic. So we're already combining two right there. If I go to the minor note, bend up a whole step, I just bend up to the F that also lives in that scale. But I think I proved in the earlier playing example of how to best go about doing this. So anywhere that those two scales intersect, you have these options. And that's when you hear players go, couple extra thrown in for good measure, right? But a lot of people will say, you just took the minor pentatonic and you added the 13 and the 6. I don't know about you, but in my early stages of playing, I had really a hard time sort of grasping onto what all those numbers meant. I wanted to play the sound. I wanted the answers now. That's what we're doing. We're giving you the fish, then you go backwards, and we're going to teach you how you caught the fish later when it makes sense, okay? I know that seems weird, but for me, this is fun. We want to pick it up. We want to play. Let's do it. So speaking of picking it up and play, I borrowed this PRS Paul's guitar. It's the SE version, because I said, you know, blues licks sound really cool depending on whether you're playing single coils or humbuckers or P90s. They kind of take on a life of their own, and for me, my style changes when I'm doing humbuckers or single coils too. So in the beginning of that video, what I'm doing now is basic clean sound with the neck humbucker engaged. What I was doing in the video is I put on my Gladio pedal and I went to the single coil because I wanted that. And most guitars these days don't do this sort of coil split as well as I think this one's doing it right now. I'm not just saying that because this is their TCI pickups that really sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? They turn one coil off essentially, and they really sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Isolate. That's it. Yeah, so they isolate the pickup and they really get that single coil sound. Now, a single coil pickup on a mahogany guitar to me is never going to be a full sort of Strat style thing. But if you're looking for something that like gives you a lot of options and you want to be able to go back and forth, like it's your first maybe, you know, more than $400 guitar. You want something that's going to give you a lot of options maybe, because you're still getting your feet wet with tone. Beginners in tone, it's a big thing because you don't know what you like until you really play it or hear it. So that single coil sound is pretty great. And then what I did is I went to the bridge that was humbucker engaged. And I wanted to do that to give myself a little bit more power when I go to that bridge. Now, let's say I want to go full single coil on the bridge. I can do that. It's going to give you more of that sort of little sparklier. Maybe. If I do a humbucker of that. A little fatter, a little bit more nosy in the mid-range. But really what I started to find was cool was like, let's play licks, you know. It just takes on a personality that's different. I hear different players, my hands respond differently. I'm gonna do a video on this concept, like when you're creating guitar parts or guitar sounds, when to use what. And there's definitely reasons that you wanna lean towards a humbucker or a single coil. And we haven't even talked about P90s. But if I go full, let's go single coil bridge. That's pretty darn good. Now, if I went to humbucker and did that. Good, but the single coil just sounds really nice. Now, if I go to my neck pickup and go humbucker, real woofy and dark. Now, this is gonna be nicer for maybe some of the higher. Notice how I started playing with my fingers. I just felt that I wanted to be a little warmer. Really sing. If I went to single coil and did that. It's funny, when you hear single coil players play, they dig in. The pickup's not giving them enough output, so they have to get it from their hand. But if I did that on a humbucker, it's a little too furry. So my brain says, man, I want to play more of that delicate, maybe on a slow blues, you know. Major, minor, pentatonic. Bridge humbucker. So maybe I'll put a video together where I kind of dive in a little bit more and maybe put some parts together and really show how you can use one guitar like this to get a bunch of different sounds, or if you are just clueless about what your next guitar should be, whether it's single coil or humbucker, this might help as well. Now, the idea is that, one guitar doesn't rule the world. If we're guitar players, we always want the next one. I'm always shooting for the next one. I try to talk myself out of that. It just doesn't happen. So get used to it, It's the same for people that play golf or people that have whatever hobby that is, something that's expensive, whether it's motorcycles or boats or who knows, it all sort of adds up, but it all makes us sort of chase something that we hear in our head or that we see that we want to get our hands on. All right, so I thought that was a lot of fun. Tab and track available. And, you can check out links. I put links for not only this, but the other pedals I'm using, the Gladio pedal, as well as I love using the new UAFX Golden and Starlight a lot for my reverb and delay. Of course, I use the aux box with my 2-Rock TS1. So I'll shoot links down there if you guys are interested. You can check it out for sure. All right, so that's it. The Paul's guitar sounds pretty darn good for an we'll call this an SE. We'll call them more of a valued guitar, but it's really, really strong guitar for the money. But more importantly, the money is in the major and minor pentatonics that we talked about. All right, so take the tab, get the track, have some fun. Feel free to hit me up in the comments or my email and really tell me how you're progressing. A lot of people have done that and said, I'm having trouble with this, but I'm nailing this with your help. I love to hear that. It's so much fun. If you made it this far in the video, hopefully you hit the subscribe button or maybe the like button too, because that really helps grow the channel. I hear lots and lots of requests about what people want to see, and I can only do so many videos a week, and by you supporting the channel, I can maybe do more. All right, thanks so much. Don't forget to click all the links and the subscribe and blah, blah, blah. All right, I'll see you on the next lesson. This was a lot of fun to do, and I love talking through the gear as well. All right, I'll see you on the next video. Take care.